Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Earthborne Games Podcast. Is that what it's called? I haven't done this in a while.
Yeah, I think so.
The Earthborne Games
Podcast, not Playcast. We've been doing a Playcast.
Right. This is the podcast. We're back in our homes. You're seeing our faces looking right at you. It's the three white guys. we're just talking about how we're so appreciative that y'all are still interested in listening to this group of white guys talk.
Yeah.
Month after month, week after week. Fisher, you want to say something?
Is this my intro?
Yeah, it's your intro.
Okay.
Hello.
I don't
Welcome.
know. My anecdote for my intro was going to be that I'm feeling pretty good right now because I just like a couple hours ago got the email that you guys were not breathing in asbestos when you were in my basement for the Playcast.
Oh,
so,
good.
Good news, everyone.
So you like,
hey man,
you
I didn't even know that was
us.
a possibility.
Yeah, I mean I didn't either. So we were doing some renovation to our laundry room, and I discovered some stuff, and I was like, "Is this asbestos?" And so we brought it to like a testing center. That was just I brought it in like just yesterday, and so got the results back, and it's not asbestos. So you guys weren't breathing asbestos. So
that's
good
the
news.
stuff of nightmares right there. I suppose
Yeah.
if it was asbestos, you just wouldn't have said anything to us. 'Cause
I would have
what do you
told
do?
you.
Well, I mean, what do you do at that point? You know,
I
too
was
late.
gonna like we found it like a couple days ago, and then I was gonna tell you guys it. I get to tell you good news instead of bad news. So.
Mm-hmm. Cool, man. That just made my day.
but you did have COVID, and you gave us COVID though. So no, I'm kidding.
You're trying to buffer it with the good news first. I didn't even know that it had an appearance. I thought it was just like an invisible killer.
Well, yeah. Usually, like that's why you have to get stuff tested. So it was like tiles that were broken. So like a lot of basements will have like asbestos tile that had tile added before the 80s, before they kind of realized how terrible it was. And from like moving in a new laundry machine or something, some of the tiles got broken, and we were like, "Ooh, is this tile asbestos?" And so that's when I brought it in, because like if you don't disturb it, they say it's just fine. So it's only a problem if like it gets broken or torn up or something.
Were the tiles 9 inches or 12 inches wide?
12 inches.
Okay, because I heard the 9-inch ones are usually the asbestos ones.
Yeah, that's a friend of mine who's done like contracting work said the same thing. But then the internet freaked me out. I started Googling it, and there's like everything's asbestos, and so I went and paid to get it tested.
Yeah,
Testos. I didn't realize that asbestos is just the name of a product. I thought it was something
it's an occurring element, isn't it? I mean, not an element, but
it's like a microscopic like fiberglass almost, I believe. So like it's like made up of these tiny little fibers, and that's actually what. So I mean, like I think it was a product, but it's also like a material. I'm sure one of the scientists listening will correct us in the comments and tell us all about asbestos. But basically, it's like the tiny particles get in the air, these little like fibers, and then you breathe them in, and they just lodge themselves in your lungs and cause like ongoing irritation and damage. And that's what causes the like lung problems and potential cancer risk, is just all these little microscopic fibers being irritating.
Wow.
This is great stuff from
it's
a
so different.
Hypochondriac soul.
It's so different than what I thought it was. I thought it was akin to like black mold or something.
I mean, kind of.
Oh yeah, it's just an insulation material.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of houses have it. Just a lot of people just leave it there because it's not a problem unless it's in the air.
Yeah, we got it in the basement. So.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And there's lead on all of our dishware as well. if you're a thrifter. Evan's here too, and Andrew Navarro sadly is not joining us tonight. I do not know where he is. He's playing Monopoly. I know that, with his son.
He's someplace. Crap. Do you remember? I'm now drawing a blank. Evan, do you remember where he is? He's someplace warm.
You go to Puerto Rico?
No, not Puerto Rico.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah. Not Costa Rica. Is it Costa Rica?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Costa Rica.
Okay,
Yeah,
I remember
I think you're
Whoops.
right.
saying that now.
We just
He's
edit
going to
this
be
part
listening
out.
to this, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, guys, how do you not?"
Just
We've
for
been
fun.
so
sent
busy
us-
with work, we just can't keep track
Yeah.
of where.
He sent us a
Mhm.
picture from the back window of where he's staying, and there's just this gorgeous, lush jungle and volcano, and it's just gorgeous. And while he was sending us this picture, we were getting freezing rain here in Minnesota. So
Is he just
we're
on
very
vacay?
jealous. Yeah, yep. He's there with his family right now. He's still doing some work. I've yelled at him when I see him doing work, but he's still online and doing stuff. But he just doesn't have reliable enough internet to join us for the podcast.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm glad he's not. I don't want to see him enjoying beautiful weather because I'm not an adult.
And we've entered the worst month, in my opinion, the worst month of the year is March in this part of the world. So
Right.
Oh, really?
yeah,
Is it March already?
Yep.
Did you guys get a lot of that today? It's March 1st, by the way. Oh boy. I guess you guys don't work in an office. I work in a place with coworkers all around, and that's a favorite small talk topic for people. Whoa,
So
was
like,
it March?
geez, it's
Oh,
March
boy.
already.
Can you believe it?
Well,
February.
I knew it was March, and I knew it was Wednesday because the weird tornado alarm went off, which is
Oh,
a
yeah.
unique trait of. I don't. Is that just a Minnesota thing, or
I don't know.
I believe it's a Minnesota thing. So for people who don't know, in Minnesota, on the first Wednesday of every month, they run the tornado sirens for a bit in the early afternoon. And I think it's just like is it like to make sure they're still working, or is it an awareness thing? I'm
I
not
think
sure.
it was
Still
back
work.
in the during the Minnesota Wisconsin wars. It was like an air raid siren for when Wisconsin would send their biplanes over us and bomb us. Or something.
Well, anyway, we hear tornado sirens way more often for these monthly drills than we do for actual tornadoes.
Mhm.
And like every time they go off, it's been happening my entire life. I've lived here most of my life, and every time they go off, I think to myself, "What's happening?" Oh, it's the first Wednesday of the month.
Mhm.
That's
Every
true.
time without fail.
Yeah, you never wake up that day thinking, "Man, when is that drill or that siren going to go off?"
It's tornado siren day.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, what's even weirder is in White Bear Lake, where Andrew lives, they run them for just like a minute at lunchtime every day, every work day. And it was kind of like it's from a tradition when like the working populace in that area, it was like a lunch bell basically to tell businesses like, "Oh, send your people to lunch," and they just do it out of tradition.
In
And
North
so
St.
like
Paul.
yeah, like
Yeah.
White Bear Lake area. When we were recording like one of the Learn to Play videos where we were outside on one of Andrew's porches, we had to pause because like the sirens went off for lunchtime during our recording.
So that's
Weird.
That's pretty cool. So quaint and obnoxious, probably.
Yeah, it's a little obnoxious. You're out on this peaceful day, and then the air raid siren starts blaring.
Lunchtime. Well, everybody, we've been doing the Playcast. I hope you've watched. So far, we've had our sleeving episode, and then we went through the prologue. Is that all we have? That's all we have up so far, right?
Yeah.
Yep, that's all we have up. We have also recorded day one, but that has not aired yet. I think Corey will be posting that maybe the week after this podcast, a week or two after this podcast. That will go live, where you guys actually start the campaign.
Yep.
And
For
that's
people
going to
who-
be
Oh, go
two.
ahead.
There's going to be two. That's going to be broken up into 2 episodes, right? Day one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. We took long enough kind of explaining and going through everything that we're going to probably air it first half, second half.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
For people who don't know, the Playcast is our kind of actual play of the game. So Evan and Anders have been, we put them in the hot seat, and Anders hasn't played many games like this.
No.
Would you say this is is this the most involved board game you've ever played?
Absolutely, for sure. It is. Yeah. It's, I think, by a long shot, the most involved game of any kind that I've ever played. I don't even know. I wonder what the next runner up would be. Probably like Catan.
Okay.
So that's a pretty
Yeah,
big.
that's a good touch point. Yeah.
But
That's a big gulf. Yeah.
that's a big gulf, I think. So when you watch these playcasts, I'm a little nervous that it's I'm not selling the game very well because I'm just struggling to learn it so much. Um,
No,
so
you've been
like
doing pretty good. And like
oh,
the one of the YouTube commenters on the prologue even commented that they appreciated that
I saw
we
that.
had
Yeah.
you guys who were less experienced with the game systems be the ones to play so they could kind of see, what the experience is going to be like for people less experienced. So I think it's good.
Mhm.
Cool. I just wonder, if people would, eventually get impatient with me. Like, come on, man, haven't you figured that shit out yet? Because it would come to my turn, and I would literally also these days I get up really early with my daughter, and by evening time I just blank out sometimes.
Yeah.
So we've been recording
No.
this at night. So when it would come around to my turn, I would just be the nerves on me already feeling nervous that I'm gonna screw things up for the show, and then also just blanking out because I'm so tired. I would just blank out. Like, what am I supposed to do now? Um,
I hear you, Anders. I mean, I'm in the same position, getting up early and everything, and having like a full day, and then when we record the playcast at night, it's just kind of burned out. So, but I think you did a great job, and
yeah,
we
that's just a.
were. Oh, go
I
ahead,
just,
sir.
I just want to say that's just like a caveat for what I'm about. What else I'm going to say, which is that I, I love the game. It's so amazing to finally. It's such a weird experience to sit here and talk to you guys for over a year now, week after week about this thing that I've never touched, and then go and just dive into it with all these little tidbits that I've heard you guys talk about. And it I texted Andrew the day after I played it for the first time, and I just said, like, this game like exceeds all expectations I had. Like, I was I mean, I think I may be kind of maybe a little bit pessimistic at times, and I think I was cautiously like, I don't know if this is going to be my thing. I might, how could it be? I mean, I assumed it would be great because you guys have put so much love into it. But anyway, it blew my expectations out of the water. Even like not fully understanding it yet. Like, I already am just really impressed with the game.
Cool.
And I mean, I could go on. Like, I love just from the world building standpoint. Like, it just feels so warm, and I just want to like keep going and discovering new places and stories and art and game mechanics. Like, I feel like I've probably only seen like 5% of what the game has to offer.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I'm actually looking forward to the moment when, like, you have the foundation of the mechanics down, but once you start seeing the synergy between the cards you play and
mm-hmm.
how you can optimize all these words I'm throwing out are kind of boring buzzwords, but like optimizing your turn and feeling
Right.
that satisfaction of like, wow, instead of doing this one thing, failing a check or passing a check, I actually did multiple things in my turn because of this coordinated effort of my cards, and
Yeah.
also one thing that we have to remember to do is that our character role cards themselves actually have an ability that
Oh
I don't think it's come up that either of us have had to
no.
use our abilities, but that's even just a whole nother thing, so you'll start to, at a certain point, it'll click, and you'll start realizing these things can play off each other for efficient gameplay and stuff. And
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like I'm just treading water right now. Like, just remember what to do. Remember what I need to do now. Um, just make a move at all. Like, do something. So like, I haven't even thought like, what's the most optimal way to use my turn. But I was gonna say also just the writing is so cool. Like, the writing is top notch. Who did the writing?
Sam Gregor Stewart did
Yes.
did the writing. He's a former coworker of Andrew Evan and I's, and
And then you guys
he
kind of
works at Edge RPG Studio right now.
you I think Andrew had a hand in some of it too, right? Like,
Oh yeah, I mean
Yeah,
we
yeah.
we all did bits of writing for it, but
Yeah.
and so like a lot of the rule book was me. Andrew did a pass on everything,
Yeah.
but I think the bulk of the credit for the writing goes to Sam. He was there from day one with the world building, and he wrote almost most of the words you're going to be reading in the campaign guide.
Hmm. Well, it's terrifically written. And another thing I was really really impressed by was the way I didn't. So I my touch point is RPG video games, open world games, video games, and when you would always talk about NPCs and quests and missions and stuff. I've never experienced that in a tabletop game, and it's actually so incredible how all the pieces fit together and stories play out so smoothly within the game. Like I don't even like it must have been so much work to get every piece to fit together, but then also incorporating like mechanics, and it's just I don't know. I'm just in awe of the game, and I'm excited for everybody to play it.
Oh yeah, the all of the working parts of that thing were a ton of work. That
Yeah,
there's a giant flow chart that kind of adjudicates how everything connects together and like help me visualize how everything connects together, so we didn't make any weird errors in how things flow. And I mean, I'm sure there's still some weird errors we didn't quite catch, but uh, yeah, it was a bit of work to get that all kind of flowing nicely. One thing that you said was about you mentioned kind of like treading water and just trying to figure out what you do next, and I think that's something um, we see a bit of in episode one, or like the day one that will be coming out after this podcast. But like you'll kind of like I observed you would focus on just discarding cards, right, to like do tests and not necessarily like playing all the cards for all the different synergies. But
because each
that's one.
card, yeah, just each card you can use it as fill in the blank. What is the terminology? You can use
Oh
the
yeah, so you can discard it for the approach icons to add to your test.
right, or there's an ability on the card that you can use. And I was only focusing on like, can I use this as basically like mana, right? Or
Yep.
is that what you'd say? Um, but then once that other element came in, when I just you brought that to my attention, it made me even more flustered.
Well, that was I was gonna say like we kind of saw you doing that, and like I was like, well, this is great. Like Andres can just engage with the game at his own pace,
Hmm.
and engage in the game that you want to in the way you want to engage with it. But I think Andrew, it was driving Andrew a little nuts. Like he'd be like sitting on the sideline, like you could play that
Yeah,
for this other benefit.
that is when the tides changed for sure. Yeah, no, it gave me more to worry about, but it also made it so much more interesting and fun. And by the end of day one, part two, which will come out in probably like a month from now, I don't know how.
I don't know when Corey's planning on
But you'll
releasing it all.
see. You guys will see at the end of that, it's starting to click for me finally. So
Well, you'll just have to observe my character throwing their extra supercharged hiking greaves at at different
that was a running
beings
joke.
in order to escape, because that was the result of playing a moment card to use the tokens off of a equipment card or gear card to do something totally different, which
Mhm.
is where the fun synergy stuff comes in. It is the way you can use cards for different purposes that aren't usually their main purpose, I suppose.
Right. And
AKA Evan being needlessly violent right off the
Yeah.
bat.
and I will say
I panicked.
this. I will say everyone should know that even I will admit that I have a harder time learning rules at first for things. I think I may have a titch of the ADHD, but all that being said, like I see at its core there is like a beautiful like simplicity to the game. Like it's very it's all there. Everything is nothing is like hidden. The rules don't feel hidden or you know hey, where the hell did that rule come from? It's all right there, but for me, it's just this feeling of overwhelm and being filmed while I'm doing it. But
Yeah.
it also, there's like an elegance to the way the game flows, and it's got some great design when it comes to that. To keeping it as simple as it can, even though it is a complex game.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to get it to the table with the two of you a bit more and see
I
you
forgot
kind of like.
I forgot how to play. It's been like 5 days.
Yeah, every new day we sit down to record, we'll reteach you the game. They'll all serve as learning videos, so it'll be great.
Yes. So guys, watch the playcast. I'm not lying. I am. You're gonna love it. People that I think people who are familiar with this are gonna love it even more. This kind of game, because I love it. So far.
You're gonna once you get down to Spire, you'll be like, nope, never mind, not for me.
Oh my god, he actually left the playcast. He took his mic off and left. Oh no.
Just never on the show ever again. What would that do for sales? Maybe we could like stage something like that for like, a publicity stunt.
Ooh, yeah, like for drama. You like walk off. Yeah, I like this.
This numbskull cannot figure out the game.
We'll have some fun with the thumbnail for the YouTube video. That's for sure.
Throwing the game.
Yeah, get a freeze frame of Anders throwing his lav as he leaves in outrage.
Ripping the map.
No, we paid so much to get those printed.
Oh yeah, one last thing about the game. The art is just, and the world itself to me just feels so unique. It's perfect. Like, I think when something is too different and out of nowhere, like you can't really find what it's referencing. I think it alienates most people. And then sometimes something just looks like, oh, this is they did Lord of the Rings. Cool. There's an elf, there's an orc, there's a whatever. But this, I feel like it touches on just the right amount of like familiar things. It's drawing from some kind of, utopian future stuff, but it totally feels like something new. And when you're actually playing it and not just looking at the art and experiencing it, I really felt like I was, if this were a movie or something, it would feel like a new like vision of like a future world. So bravo.
I've heard of like an allegory for storytelling. I don't know if it's an allegory, but it was a advice about storytelling and avoiding not having to feel like you need to avoid well-worn territory and reinvent the wheel. It's just how you just treat those aspects as ingredients and throw them into the same stew. And I'm only saying this from the art perspective. I feel like because so many people were involved in the art, and early on we were just concepting stuff, and like me and Joe and Andrew and like some of the early artists like Wayne, we just all threw our ingredients into the stew, and like this weird stuff came up, and I guess it resonates just enough, to not alienate. So that's cool. That's good to hear.
Yeah, in design jargon, they'll refer to that as like most advanced yet acceptable. Maya will be like in like product design. It's the idea that you want to innovate, but you don't want to innovate too much because then the thing will no longer be familiar. So you want to hit that kind of sweet spot in between. And a lot of like product design is all about innovating while staying familiar. And in many ways, I think like a lot of aspects are like from the design side, we're trying to emulate open world games, and we're trying to emulate these experiences people know they like and want to have. So I think it goes for all elements of a given product, is trying to kind of strike that balance. Sometimes you might push more into weird territory, but that's when you kind of get into like that like auteur singular vision, like I don't care if it's a good product, I just want to make my art kind of thing. And like we're kind of trying to make something that appeals to people but is also still slightly progressive.
And it's good to hear that from someone who was somewhat outside, although you contributed art to the game, Anders. But I feel like so closely involved to this project that I don't know how to look at it with fresh eyes. So I just see I see the art differently from everyone else.
Right.
So I don't know how it is accepted.
How it's
a lot of
like
times.
how it's perceived. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Well, I'm someone I'm really I get turned off when something is, like I said, like, oh, you're just doing the fantasy thing. You know, like The Witcher, for example, is just well-worn kind of fantasy tropes. But it's still cool in its writing and stuff. But I feel like Elden Ring, that kind of goes there, but also it feels like just otherworldly at the same time. And I feel like that's kind of the spot where Earthborne hits when it comes to this future kind of nature-y. I mean, I don't know what's the closest thing to it.
To Earthborne, the Earthborne setting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like we kind of fall into a kind of subgenre that people will often refer to as solar punk. Oh
yeah.
We're not quite exactly solar punk, but we are like, I think we're kind of adjacent to that aesthetic. And obviously, I think we share some similarities with, like, you know, the Horizon Zero Dawn universe,
right?
In kind of that post apocalypse with like this altered ecosystem.
But there's this like non-violent aspect to yours that
that's true,
sets it apart.
Yeah,
big time. Some of the inspiration from that comes from like some utopian fiction, like Star Trek. Not as much in Star Trek Execution is less utopian, but like Star Trek in theory, the setting for Star Trek in theory is fairly utopian, right? We don't see much of that because we see all the conflict, but there's some elements of that where we're kind of trying to evoke a more utopian side. But you are right, that is like something we don't, especially in kind of post-apocalyptic media, we don't see that much of that utopian vision these days. It's not as in vogue.
It's called our setting is Poncho Punk.
Right,
that's right. Yeah,
by Chris Beck. So
it's entirely new. It's an entirely new thing. I just got word in my earpiece here from Andrew. He actually is
he listening to us?
He's updating us as we're recording. He sent us a picture of him about to play Monopoly with his son, and then he just wrote, "I just read the rules to Monopoly for the first time as an adult. Too real, man."
Yeah.
And that is, I had to read that because that's very true. It's very true.
Yeah.
A game that was too complex for me as a kid. So if that tells you anything about my ability to learn rules.
Oh, it's fine. Most people play Monopoly half house ruled anyway, so
for sure.
You don't really need to know the rules.
You just got to buy stuff.
Just buy stuff.
Pure capitalism.
Screw your friends over. All right, guys. That was our update on our Playcast. I hope you guys are watching. It's our most viewed video right now. The last one had a pretty high viewership. Wonder why.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we got cards at the table, you know, irresistible.
Yeah, right. It is simply irresistible. We also have a few listener questions here for old time's sakes. It's kind of fun to be doing this again. It's been a long time since we've done just a regular podcast. Yeah,
we've been recording the Playcast, so we haven't just done this. And we haven't done the kids table with no Andrew in quite a while.
It's true. We joke that this was going to just be a Marvel Snapcast because
it still could be.
Are you both still playing daily?
I play every night when I go to bed. I'll like burn through my dailies, but not like a ton.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been playing daily and just chasing that dragon of trying to get unlocking the one card I want. You know,
which one do you want right now? Wait, no. We'll talk about this later.
Okay, yeah.
Let's do
We're on listener questions. We're sticking to the script.
Yeah, let's do some good old listener questions. Let's keep it snappy, yeah. Let's keep our responses as snappy as possible, guys. I'm talking to you because I never answer these. I guess I'm just talking to Fisher.
Yeah, I know.
I can always count on Evan to keep it snappy. I feel like I should explain why I said that. We talked that this would be a shorter episode earlier, and we're already halfway. We're already at half an hour. But it's okay.
Yeah, we're not good at keeping
No.
it short, or at least I'm not.
We're having a good time. So, Fisher, I feel bad now. Just answer like your lovely self, okay?
No, you're getting one-word answers now. All of these one-word answers.
That'd be pretty cool.
It'd be kind of hard, actually.
Yeah, it'd be a fun challenge. Let's
It would
try.
be
Let's
hard,
just try.
just-
Let's see if
It
it's
would just be
possible.
uncomfortable. It would just be really uncomfortable knowing that Fisher is mad for the rest of the episode. And
Yeah. Punishing us. See if you can answer this with one word, all right? If you could choose one card's... Oh, this is a one-word answer kind of question, though. If you could choose one card's artwork to display in a gallery, which would you choose and why? Evan.
yeah, so I answered.
One word.
Oh,
we're
Kobo's-
all doing one word.
Wait, both
No.
pieces are 2 words. But I'll say Kobo's Market is one of my favorite pieces, followed by Watcher's Rock, which I feel like doesn't get enough love by the internal team of Earthborne. Like I was blown away by Watchers when Zhang made Watcher's Rock, and I feel like I was the single torchbearer of like how cool it was in my mind. Yeah, those 2 pieces are great. I just love how painterly they are, and the Zhang's got a great handle of light, and he captures that Studio Ghibli style that I really like, that I wanted all the cards to sort of look like. So that's my answer.
Cool. Andrew?
Well, I was going to steal Andrew's answer, but I'll instead say, if it needs to be one word, I'll say Aatrox.
Nice.
Oh, Andrew said the cover illustration. It's a work of art. Isn't it all? They're all kind of works of art, aren't they?
That was just
Touche.
That's not even a compliment. It's just a fact.
It is art. I like
Andrew's clearly not engrossed in Monopoly because he came into the document while we were recording to write down his answer to this question, and that is the cover illustration. So.
Oh, he did. He did.
Yeah,
this while
I watched
we've
him
been...
write it live. This is after he ostensibly was playing Monopoly with Sam.
That's funny. My favorite art. This is actually clear in my mind. This is the clear answer, and I think it's your map, Evan.
The map, really?
I love the map. I just love it.
Wow.
It's so
Cool.
I think it's because I know you, and it just feels like I know you love doing stuff like that. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I do, definitely.
Okay, yeah. And it just seems real, like it's just real good. It's real good.
Cool.
I was gonna make a joke that it's one of mine, but it's
I know, I was thinking about that too, but
not true.
I have a tendency to I sometimes worry that people don't realize when I'm kidding.
Oh yeah.
And then they'll just think I'm an asshole.
What's the favorite piece that you made?
Me?
Yourself. Yeah.
I gotta think about that one. I guess. Well, I can. One of the ones I did recently, but I can talk about that one when we get to the work stories.
Okay, we'll wait for that answer. Stick around, everybody. Our next question comes from Chaotic, and the question is: I loved watching the game in play, but I worry a little about having to read out so many sections. Is there any plan for an audio narration to help out with so much reading? Well, I just want to say, as someone who's played quite a bit of the game now, it's more reading heavy in the prologue.
Yeah,
it really thins out after that. So anyway,
yeah. I mean, the campaign guide after you get through the prologue, it's essentially just it's housing narrative bits that are a lot shorter than the protracted kind of like introductory character building section.
And I feel like this is kind of cool. I can actually kind of answer these questions now. I feel like you can kind of skip that stuff if you want, right? Or not?
Kind of. There are some mechanics in the campaign guide, so you can't fully not open the campaign guide because it does instruct you on how to do certain things.
Well, you could go there and then, is it like, are the instructions in bold or something?
Yeah, they are styled differently, so it's very easy to tell what is flavor versus what's mechanics. because of the stylings we used.
The really exciting thing for me when I was playtesting this game solo, going through the campaign guide on TTS, was seeing all the kind of the values or the conditions for whether you should read something. So if you go to an entry, it's like, if this has happened, if this has happened, if this has happened. So it's cool. Like it's a little overwhelming, but it's exciting. Like, oh man, there's all these things at play that are gonna have have a factor in like how this piece of dialogue turns out. So that was
It
cool for me.
strikes. It kind of hits that like choose your own adventure chord.
Yeah, it immediately made me like think I'm gonna replay this game. So,
Yeah, for sure.
But to the question about whether we're doing audio narration, this is one we've talked about a bit before. And unfortunately, my answer is fairly similar to what we gave back then, which is that we would love to, but we don't currently have plans to, like, in the works at the moment. We'd probably do the implementation through an app like Foreteller that already has infrastructure to handle this kind of thing. And so this is something, this is a nice to have for us that we'd love to do, but we will not have it like at launch. So
A super fan
Uh,
could make it for you, probably.
they've already been talking about on the
Yeah.
Discord. Uh,
Hell yeah.
there's been some awesome fan made deck builders and resources now that we've shared a lot of the player cards with the fan community, and they've already been talking about putting something together, which would be awesome to see. We'd love to also do an official recording, but there's a lot of things that need to happen to make that all line up, and we have a couple other priorities ahead of that, and we are a small team, so I'll be excited to see if the fan community can come up with something to kind of have that narration. That'd be very cool.
I just wanted to say this isn't. I'm not. You already answered his Chaotix question, but I wanted to add a comment onto it. Like, I totally understand where you're coming from. I had some anxiety reading reading all that stuff in front of everybody. Just because I have trouble public speaking, and I think I mentioned that I need glasses too. I might be getting my glasses
gotta
this
hold it
week
like
actually.
this.
Yeah. I was holding it out in the game area. But I just wanted to say I hope I didn't diminish the experience and made it hard to listen to. But I will a little sneak peek is Andrew Navarro will be doing some great reading going forward. So
yeah, Andrew took the reins
Yeah.
in reading for the day one stuff. And you know, I think I'm similar where I don't want to act when I'm playing a game. Like I've played more party games where they ask you to like almost improvise, and I know Dungeons and Dragons has a little bit that's a big element of it, and I feel like with this game you can just kind of read it plainly. You don't have to ham it up.
Have you
right?
Have you ever role played, Anders? Have you ever like played Dungeons and Dragons or anything?
No.
Really?
Ooh.
No.
Oh shit! We should do like a one shot of an RPG.
Yeah.
I would do that.
And you know what, Anders?
Thank you for
I've
the
played a lot
offer.
of RPGs and I've played a lot of D&D, but I'm still like a pretty like horse shit like role player, but it's still really fun. Like it's what's really fun is when you're playing with someone who's super good at it and they just make it, even if they make it all about themselves, it's just way more entertaining if someone's like a good role player.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested, intimidated as well. I've done like improv, but that's similar, I guess.
That's
basically what role playing is. Especially for one shots, like you can do like a big old book like Dungeons and Dragons or something, but like for one shots I like there's these lighter kind of more narrative games. One I love to introduce people with is called Fiasco. And it like barely has mechanics. It's mostly just a engine to improv a Coen Brothers movie at the table is effectively what it is. It's pretty enjoyable.
Invite me, man. Let's do it. Let's get something
yeah,
going.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Okay, I'm down. And we're not recording it. Sorry, guys. We'll talk about it.
That's probably Fiasco usually gets so out of hand that recording it might be a liability.
Yeah,
Evan, you've played it. I feel like we talked about it.
I played it at when we all worked at FFG. There was a work party, which surprise involves a lot of board games and stuff. And I played Fiasco once with some coworkers that I didn't really know very well, and by the end of it, I felt like I knew them all so much better. And this one coworker of mine who I'd never spoken to, in the game of Fiasco, we were siblings, so we were like acting like very close to each other and stuff. So it was interesting.
Evan, you kind of incorporated some of that in our playthrough, like slightly when we were
slightly.
Yeah,
I do enjoy role playing. Like I like playing absurd characters who are hard to deal with. It's just fun, I guess. So I was trying to channel that a little bit.
Right. Just trying to make ourselves laugh. That's what life's all about, right? Okay. Jay Sibley on YouTube says, was the rule book cover art inspired by the 70s era Tolkien books art? Yes, it was.
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
All right, next question.
Darren asks, hey all, no, okay. Love the retro style. Wondering where the inspiration came from.
Yes, so the rule book and the campaign book or campaign guide are both just cropped in images of the box art, the core box art, which is indeed inspired by the Tolkien dust jacket, the first edition of The Hobbit, which is actually 1937, surprisingly. But that modernist style, I think, probably became popular again in the 70s, and with a lot of fantasy book covers and fiction and stuff. And I always loved it because my mom would read a lot of fantasy and sci-fi, so I'd see a lot of these book covers from the library, and they really just got my imagination going every time I looked at them, and so yeah, that's totally where it came from. And I also just in general, I did a lot of research in the like modernist style that Tolkien was working in, which that dust jacket art is Tolkien's art. And actually I have like a book of his, or
oh wow,
oh cool,
his son published or something like that. Just a collection of all of his his
so
art.
he himself
Yeah
made that.
Yep.
That's cool.
And I just love it. And
yeah,
I just thought it would be a unique, Andrew and I agreed that I think it was a better direction to go than the original sort of promo art that we were using for the Kickstarter, because that sort of composition with characters looking out over a cliff into a fantasy scene, usually has a tower or something, is kind of, I don't know, you see a lot of that on game boxes. So
yeah,
the hope is twofold for me, that it'll give this direction will give it shelf presence, and this direction will, I hope I sufficiently infused it with enough of my own inspiration that people might feel that a little bit when they see it on the shelf and be like, oh wow, this is interesting. What's going on here? So, and
then there's people that might think, is this a Lord of the Rings thing? I love Lord of
the
the
Rings. Or is this like a child's game or something? I don't know.
It would,
it's not,
catch my eye for sure. I was just looking at the game store recently, and not many of them, they all kind of do feel samey, game art. And I think the original one would have maybe blended in a little more, and that this one would totally stand out.
I mean, as someone who loves fantasy art, I don't get tired of seeing that sort of thing, but it just was a unique challenge to try to not do it,
That original one is amazing too. I think it would have been fine.
Oh, thank you. We used it on the back, so.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yep.
All right. Good old Darren emailed us. These are all, we got a few old standbys tonight in the questions. Darren, we appreciate you. Hey all, last episode was soothing with all of the thwip noise of sleeving cards behind the voices, but I'm looking forward to this week to see Anders playing. Got a quick question I hope I didn't disappoint you. got a quick question for the Playcast. Why did you decide to run it with 2 Rangers as opposed to 1, 3, or 4?
I just do what I'm told.
Well, we decided.
What'd you say?
Oh,
You cut out.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I just said I just do what I'm told.
Oh, okay.
But 2 was a sweet spot for a couple reasons. First of all, it was a sweet spot for recording. We could kind of fit the whole board into a single top-down shot that kind of fits both boards in and the surroundings, and all have all the cards upright. With like 4 players, it would get pretty wild for like an top-down shot that actually captures everything. Also, the game just plays really good at 2 players, if I'm being honest. So, like, true solo plays pretty well, but, getting 2 players, you get that interaction, you get that banter for our stream. And at 4 players, it's a crowded table. A lot's going on. It takes a bit longer. And it, I think, would just make for a little bit of a longer stream and a little bit of a harder to follow stream with 4 different players doing things. So 2 just felt like kind of a sweet spot for us. For several different reasons. It also, that way we didn't have one of the incredibly experienced players in Andrew and I at the table domineering things, and we could just let the 2 of you kind of do your thing.
You were forced to sit in the back seat, digging your fingernails into your thighs as we make these terrible decisions.
No, I think that was Andrew. I think it was
I wasn't really in a back seat. I was more in that side. It's in the actual shot. You can't tell as much, but to get us all in frame, we're sitting in these really unnatural positions. So like my seat, if you kind of think about how everything lines up, I'm like sitting there with my legs like pressed up against Evan, and I'm just like staring at the side of Evan's head the whole time.
When I was reading the campaign entries, I could see in my periphery, I had this weird experience where I was just observing myself reading rather than actively reading, because I was like also watching you in my periphery as you were watching me, and it just like made this really unique experience for me. That it didn't stress me out, but it just it was interesting.
So I wasn't in the back seat as much as like on the side seat right next to Evan.
Well, I will say it feels great as a 2-player game. Like imagining playing it with just like a good buddy sitting side by side. I feel like side by side is a great way to play. And no cameras watching me or 2 pro players judging me. It'd be great fun. Or a date, so much potential there. I think 2-player game. It feels. I don't know what it would feel like as a 3 or 4 player experience.
Yeah, at higher player counts, you play fewer total rounds because you just get way more done each round. Each player draws a card, so you get more cards in play, but you have more players to deal with it. So generally, it plays fewer rounds, but you tend to get your goals done in fewer rounds as well. It was interesting during play testing. We actually gathered all our data using Google Forms, and I could kind of make charts and look at like round counts versus player counts versus like success rates to kind of make sure that our scaling was properly hitting the different player counts so that they all stayed roughly equivalent difficulty. But the round count was way lower in 4-player, even though success rates and everything were relatively equivalent. They're just playing way fewer rounds because there's so much more going on per round with 4 people doing stuff.
I feel like just hearing you say that, I can guess how many extraneous icons you have on your desktop, and that's 0, because you're just so like on top of everything. Where I have just like hundreds of icons on my desktop.
Yeah, well, I do let my desktop be like a dumping ground for like any file I don't know where it goes. But to your point about my personality, that does bother me. So I will do these cleaning passes where I basically have a folder and I'll take my desktop and dump it in there and label it with the date it got dumped there. So I have like this version history of all of it. So kind of in the middle.
That's awesome.
I just noticed on my desktop I have a folder that's labeled 12 semicolons, 5 L's, KMM, comma, KK, comma, UNNNNNN.
That's just a harmless malware. Don't worry.
-412. I think my daughter made that folder. Just some harmless malware. All right. Next question comes from Efren or Efrain, however you do that. And it's a four-parter. Number one, around the fourth episode, Andrew talked about a character type that would be all about going around and getting boons from the plants in the environment. Then I laughed out loud when he added that probably this didn't seem very exciting for people because I am that type of plant fanatic that actually goes around stopping by plants and observing and learning about them, and I got excited. LOL. I would be very happy to hear anything you can tell me about how this type of character works in the game.
Yeah, so that's the Forager background. So it's one of the different character creation options that you can choose when you're making a character. It's kind of like your backstory. It makes up maybe like 40% of your character are cards from your background pool. And so the Forager, yeah, it's all about using plants in your environment. It's a little tricky because like most of the plants that we put in the game all have their own unique uses on them. So each plant can do a thing, but the Forager can do way more. So the Forager is good at using those tests, but also has all sorts of other uses for the plants. So they can do things. They have all sorts of different gear that lets them harvest the plants in different ways, or when they're harvesting plants for other reasons, get extra benefits and stuff. It's hard, like you mentioned being a plant fanatic. It's hard to make like all our various mechanics exactly mirror real life. I mean, most of our plants are made up genetically modified plants from our weird future setting anyway, so it's not going to like parallel like real world plants that close. But like for example, the Forager has like a tea kit, and when they harvest plants, they can like charge up their tea kit, which represents them finding leaves that would work for their tea and integrating it into the tea kit, and then they can drink tea from the plants that they were using throughout their journey. But it doesn't care too much what kind of plants. It just cares about the flora keyword on the cards. So you can sometimes get some slightly silly, non-scientific interactions there where you're making tea from some pretty weird things. But it's a game,
Yeah, I mean, we had a situation like that, Anders, because you gifted me your tea set, and I could have potentially made some pretty weird tea.
I wanted it for myself, but like when you buy someone a gift that you actually want, that's kind of how that. But you let me share. I think you shared it with me towards the end of our most recent playcast.
Did I?
I think we were talking about.
That doesn't sound like something my character would do.
I think we were talking about maybe gifting it to me in the next round.
No, that was a reward that was.
Oh
earned.
Yeah. Whatever.
I want you to have the reward.
Okay, that's right. No, but there was something with the tea set and like using it, whatever.
Oh yeah, I think he let you have a sip of his tea.
Well, no, there was a discussion about using puffer crawler spores on.
Oh, that's right.
On a being, and then the potential for making some tea out of that whole interaction.
That's why
I believe, right?
You guys,
is that how it happened?
Listeners, this game gets wild. All right, we discovered that. We discovered that last in probably episode 3 or 4 of the Playcast. Coming soon.
Yeah, you can do some weird stuff with puffer crawler spores. We'll leave it at that.
Basically, you kill a being, or you wound it with puffer crawler spores attached to your implement and
your carbon forged trowel.
My carbon forged trowel, and then what does it do? It turns it basically into like a plant. The animal turns into a plant.
Yeah, basically they gain the flora trait because the puffer crawlers are flora, but they're kind of a like fungus. They reproduce using spores, and so you can kind of infect them with puffer crawler spores and turn them into a flora, but then you can interact with them as if they were a plant, which gets weird.
It made me think of The Last of Us a bit. Sounds like the monsters on there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a little cordycepsy. Yeah.
All right. Question number 2 from Efren. How could I get Anders' song that was featured at the end of episode 22? I loved it. Well, I appreciate that. I quickly looked to see what song it was, and it's not out, but you can email me and I'll email it to you. My email is anderstheguy@gmail.com. All right, email me and I'll send you MP3 of it. But it will also follow my band Love Lake on Spotify or wherever, and that song will be coming out at some point.
Oh, it's a new Love Lake song. Cool.
Yeah, it's not. It's kind of a demo that I played at the end of that episode. So I'm planning on re-recording that one. But I'm glad you loved it. That's nice of you. And then your third question: what do you all think of Horizon Zero Dawn as a sci-fi setting? Interesting. We just talked about that. Is it more hopeful or dystopian? I think a bit both. Please, no spoilers. I haven't finished the game. I have never played it.
I haven't either.
I know of it. I mean, I know a lot about it.
I have played it. It's a little hard to discuss the question without spoiling it. So I'll leave the answer a little vague, but I agree. I think it's a little bit of both, and I think Andrew weighed in on this one too. He also agrees that it's a bit of both. He loves the setting, loved when it came out, and thought it was very creative. Thinks Zero Dawn is a bit better than Forbidden West, which I can't quite speak to. I haven't played Forbidden West yet, but
is that the first one? Zero Dawn?
Zero Dawn's the first one. Forbidden West is the second one. I think the setting is, in some ways, there's a lot of hope to it, but it also has these themes of cycles and like cyclic patterns. And in some ways, kind of cyclical themes can be a little pessimistic sometimes when it comes to like human behavior and like the behavior of cultures
thing or whatever.
Yeah. And so in some ways you see some of like modern humans' flaws reproduced and explored in this setting in a way that we're trying to avoid in the Earthborne setting. And so in that way, I think there is a certain pessimism to Zero Dawn. But there's also like a lot of optimism there too. I think it's a really interesting setting, and like it's very fun. It can do wacky, weird, future science stuff, but also kind of do these more kind of back to basics feudal stories. And I think it's a neat setting. Though from what I hear, the second one gets more wild. So I haven't played it yet, but I've heard it gets more wild than Zero Dawn did.
I'm gonna play it eventually. I think.
Yeah, me too.
I love the art style.
Yeah, it does definitely. Just looking at the promo art and the key art or whatever, certain gameplay videos, it's very bright and sunshiny, which is similar to our game.
Yeah, the art gives a similar feeling. It's giving Earthborne. I personally have a warmer feeling when I look at the art from Earthborne.
Cool.
And it looks, I mean, to me, whatever. I've talked too much about that crap today. Let's just move on. And then the fourth part to the question or the email was, thank you all. The entertainment and company of your podcast means a lot. And you're welcome.
Thank you.
That's awesome to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, you listening means a lot. We appreciate it.
Right, and I've been on the other side I've listened to just, I used to love this really obscure podcast called All the Small Games, and it was just these two Australian dudes talking about like indie video games, and I'm sure they only had like 10 listeners weekly, and they did it every week, and then they stopped doing it, and I was so sad because I just listened because I loved hanging out with those guys. So it's cool to think that we might be those guys to some of you, and we appreciate you too. So that's it for the listener questions this week. How are we doing for time? Wow, we're at an hour. It's wild. Okay, let's do a little work stories, and then let's talk about the things we like too. Fisher, give us an update on what's going on with you. Must be in. I'm so curious, actually, for once, what you're doing. Because
well, first I can start, and I can give us a bit of an update from Andrew and from the company and the game overall. Other Andrew, which is one thing I know a lot of people are curious about is where the status of the product is at, and I'm happy to report that everything is fully in production. The core set, the doubler, the Valley Trail map, the playmats, the tokens, the minis, the Worlds of Earthborne Rangers. That's the art and lore book. Everything's in production and coming off the presses right now.
Wow.
We are a little behind our March estimate for fulfillment because things are still coming off, and we still need to do a bit of shipping and logistics before we can really start rolling on fulfillment. So we're hoping that fulfillment can begin sometime in April. We'll be posting a Kickstarter update soon with more detailed information for everybody, so keep an eye out for that. But
that is so soon.
Yeah, it's very soon, and
that's cool.
We were hoping to get a cell phone picture of them rolling off the presses. Maybe we'll still get that from Frank before we post the update. But
cool.
Yeah, it's becoming very real, which is cool. It's always a fun step. But to my work stories, my personal work stories, I'm like, I talked about this. I forget. I'm sorry if I've said this before on a previous podcast when it was the Andrew and Andrew podcast last time, but right now I'm scattered in like 20 different directions. After the core set, we have a lot of iron. I have a lot of irons in the fire. We're working on all the various expansions for Rangers. We have that kind of next card game project we've alluded to. Last time we talked about this kind of early RPG project that I've started playing around with. We have some other prototypes. So like I just have, that's a lot. That's just a lot of different things and context switching to be doing constantly. And it's too much, to be honest, at the moment. Like we're still a pretty small team and we just need to like focus on getting specific things out the door. And so kind of my theme these coming weeks is to focus and figure out where we want to exactly focus our attention and get those things done and out the door. So I've been a little all over the place and I'm trying to kind of rein it in to a more singular focus to just kind of get things done. So that's kind of my work update. Nothing too specific. A lot of different small things kind of making up a whole picture.
Sounds like one of those anxiety dreams that I get every once in a while when I'm trying to complete a task and I just can't do it.
Oh, yeah. Terrible.
Those are. But that sounds like kind of the opposite of my work update, which is I'm very singularly focused on getting art going. Just art I'm making and art that I'm getting artists going on. So it's really ramped up. I mean, I think last time I provided an update, I was just working with outside art studio who is able to take on a lot more pieces than a singular artist. But now since that time, a lot of artists who worked on the core set have come back and they're working on stuff for the expansion, which is cool. So there's just a lot of things happening right now on my plate, but they're all kind of focused on one goal, unlike you, Fisher, where you're kind of going in all sorts of different directions. So yeah, and I just finished Ranger roll art, which was greatly improved from the sketch that I provided after some feedback from Andrew Navarro. It became, I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, like my favorite piece is the one was that Ranger roll art that I recently finished, and it was a lot of it had to do with the guidance from Andrew. Like it just came together. So I'm really happy with it, and I can't wait to like share it on Instagram, which is something I haven't done in a long time. I haven't shared anything on Instagram.
Is that the one you were sharing on the visual channel on Discord?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's the
with the staff and the green cloak and everything.
Yep.
So, yeah, that piece is fantastic.
Thank you. So yeah, that's so I'm making art and I'm talking with artists, and that's pretty much it. And I'll be doing that for a long, next handful of months, I guess. And I also hound Fisher about the art card list, art needs list spreadsheet that you've been so diligently updating. But
I wouldn't use the word diligent.
Well, I mean, it has become very diligent in the last couple days, which is nice. So
you talk about hounding. I feel bad when like you share a piece and then I go, oh crap, that can't have sunlight in it, and like
yeah.
I'm like blowing up your shit. I feel bad.
That's fine. I just I just break some things in the office and
It helps. It helps. Cool.
No, yeah, so that's me.
Nice. Thank you for sharing, you guys. Oh, and Andrew,
I dropped his updates.
you dropped it. Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic. Andrew is really here in spirit this week. So we have one last segment. The moment you've all been waiting for. The Marvel Snapcast. No.
Yeah.
I don't have much to say about it actually. I like it. I just got the Invisible Woman finally, which allows me to play MODOK or whatever the hell that weird character is.
MODOK.
Yeah. Because MODOK discards your entire hand. So if you play it too early, you might discard Gila, which then brings those cards back into play on the 6th turn. So I've been able to pull that off a few times. So you have like all these really high power cards in there. You drop MODOK on the Invisible Woman, then you play Gila on your 6th turn after MODOK destroys all these big cards, and she brings them all back into play, and you just annihilate your opponent. But it when people used to do that to me, I was like, dang, this deck is OP. But when you're actually playing it, it's hard. You rarely get the right cards, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the combo decks are kind of tricky because you need all the pieces to come to you, and then like you need them to not play any of the cards that are just a hard counter to your combo.
Oh yeah, Cosmo kills me.
Yeah,
Cosmo,
yeah.
so.
Oh yeah.
I just added Cosmo to my current deck because I've been getting screwed over by stuff on reveal stuff.
Oh, so you did Cosmo? So. Yeah, like Wong decks.
Yeah.
Yep. Cosmo is a combo killer. I feel like Armor and Professor X also kind of like kill a lot of combo decks.
I love playing Armor after someone's played Bucky Barnes and like
that's a good one.
and like Nova.
Yeah, where they're gonna try to destroy their cards, so you just make it so they can't. Yeah.
But that's like, this is why, like, and I've said this before, but this is why the snap mechanic is like the soul of this game, because like these hard counters to these combo decks would just be frustrating. And like I probably would have quit this game long ago if that was just the game. But the fact that you have this like all-in betting snap mechanic means that like now instead of it being a frustrating situation, it's a situation I can sit there and read and decide how to make the interesting snap decision, right? Like, oh, do I think they've got a counter? In which case I'll just retreat. Otherwise, like, oh, now's the time to snap, and then I snap, and then they end up having the hard counter to my deck. And so like this game that would have been otherwise frustrating is made fascinating by a simple betting mechanic, which it's definitely made me reconsider certain designs I've worked on.
That's funny because I enjoy the game for different reasons. I hardly ever snap. Honestly, I'm not like it's really revealed something about myself. I'm just not like a gambler. You know, I'm like when someone snaps, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna lose. Or, oh, they're so confident. Damn.
I love to snap back and then win, and that's just such an exhilarating feeling. Like I don't care about the cubes. I just am like, haha, you thought you were gonna get me, and I got you times 2.
Are you do you send toxic emojis when you win in those cases? Do you,
I was just going to mention
like
that.
The snap,
are they
snap emoji?
So sometimes I'll get emojis and I'm like, am I reading it as toxic or are they just taunting me? I can't tell.
Right.
The snap one is annoying. Like,
and the emojis are really brilliant too. Like they're cryptic. It's hard to be toxic. Yeah.
Well, but it's funny because like I saw a Twitter poll where somebody posted, I think it was the Miss Marvel thumbs up one, and they're like, question for everybody, is this a toxic emoji?
Yes.
And it was like 80% yes.
Yeah.
And there was like the 20% of people were like, I use it as good game. And like
Yeah.
everybody else was like, yeah, except
No,
everybody
fist bump.
only uses it when they just obliterated you,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
that's when they use it.
I love using
Or
it.
they'll use
Go
it
ahead.
when you've tried to do something and it failed, and then they
Yes,
give you a
that's what
thumbs up.
That's what I do it. That's what I love to do it. Like, good
Ah.
job, you got me, haha. Not, yeah, yeah. It's a nice try. It's a nice try for me.
Pretty much.
But it feels really good to do the fist bump when you both do the fist bump
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah.
I feel really
Yeah.
good about myself when I do the fist bump first when I've lost.
Yeah.
Or the
Makes-
when you both like play the exact same card in the same place and you do the like Spider-Man
Yeah.
like pointing at each other at the same
Yeah.
time. That's always fun.
Double
we're all
armor.
we're all the same.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good game. But Marvel Snap. Anything else you guys want to say about it?
Yeah, we promised it. We told Andrew when he wasn't going to be here that we were going to usurp the podcast and make it a 100% Marvel Snap podcast.
Yeah.
So we clearly haven't done that justice. But
No, and I'm just
Well,
thinking
no, I
about.
like it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say.
I
I
was-
was just thinking about all the people who don't even play the game. Like,
Yeah,
what are they thinking
yeah, I
right
know.
now?
I know. Who are like, what? They've turned it off. They turned off the podcast.
That's why it's late in
Wait.
in the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have stuff we're into that's not Marvel Snap though.
Right.
At least we're not like sharing our screen, and at least none of us have Snap on Steam or whatever. And we try to just illustrate
yeah.
visually like what we're talking about by playing around.
Yeah, right. I have my YouTube feed when I look at YouTube at night is a lot of people playing Marvel Snap now.
Oh yeah.
I have tried to watch. There's this guy Binks. I don't really like I don't like him personally, but he plays way too like cautiously. I'm not a fan of that.
Oh really?
Like retreats. He's like, nah, they're probably going to do this, so I'm not going to take that risk. Just for me, the fun is just taking risks, and then it's fun if it pays off. In
Yeah.
that game. I have bought 3 of the 4. What do you call them? I can never think what it's called. Season pass.
Season passes.
Yeah.
So what do you get, like a free card, or like you get an automatic the MODOK or whatever, MODOK card,
Yep.
stuff like that?
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
they'll give you like the featured card, and then you get a bunch of XP and stuff for it, and like a custom version of it, and then you unlock like 3/4 of the season pass unlock. So if you play a bunch, like you get a bunch of gold and credits for your money too.
For me,
Haven't done that.
it's $9.99 for it, and for me, it's worth because it's a game I love, and just getting that one card is like a month's worth of reinvigorating the game for me. So like the last one was Zabu, and playing with Zabu kind of really changed how I played. So it's like playing a new game for a month.
Mm-hmm.
And this MODOK deck does the same. I think it's a good season pass. I don't even care about any of the other stuff.
Yeah, I'm still playing a Black Panther deck 3 months later.
I still don't have Black
Yeah.
Panther.
I don't either.
It's a fun time.
I've been playing my movement deck, which is like pretty much obsolete. I don't see anyone really playing it.
Oh
that
yeah,
much.
that's a little old school at this
Yeah.
point.
Well, I noticed that Dagger got updated. I think Dagger used to have 1 power and now has 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah, I
damn-
think she got buffed.
Yeah,
done
which
quite a
I thought
few.
was pretty cool. So
I will
been
say
playing
one
it again.
last thing is like I've noticed that when you play these complex like movement decks or destroy decks or whatever, it's a lot more precarious when you're playing. You're kind of like trying to get all the pieces to
Yeah.
come together, and then you just kind of barely win when you do win. For me, I've never seen someone play this deck, but I've shared it with you guys, where it's just a bunch of huge cards, and then Dracula, Wave, Lady Sif, and Ghost Rider, and you just get a bunch of these big cards out there, and I win like 80% of the time, and it's by a lot. So it's kind of interesting. Though it's not as fun, it's just like, okay, I won again.
it is an interesting deck that I haven't seen a lot of, and I
No.
I didn't have all the cards. I didn't have Wave, but I have it now. But it
it a
worked for
try.
me pretty well. It was weird to see to put 4 to 5, 6 power cards in my deck because it just felt dumb.
Yeah,
But-
but they get out. They usually get out
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel this getting dull now. Okay. Let's. I also saw the movie Cocaine Bear. That's the other
Mm.
thing.
Oh, what did you think of Cocaine Bear?
Did you see it?
No, I haven't.
It was exactly what the reviews say, which is that it's like a great, if you're into B movies, you will like it for sure. And it's a fun ride, and it also feels kind of like there's a lot of missed opportunities to like ante up, you know?
Oh, really?
Like it feels like it should be even more bizarre and bonkers, and it doesn't quite push it far enough. But I think it's
It doesn't
worth,
like go full Sharknado or anything.
yeah, where it could have. Like I see all the missed opportunities, and it's a bit too body horror, like violent for me at
Oh,
times.
really?
Oh
Okay.
yeah, it's disgusting at times. So if you're not into that, I would not recommend it. But if you're fine with that, I would say see it in the theater. It's fun. It's like a fun B movie ride. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've consumed. Fisher, your turn.
Well, yeah, on my end, I haven't had as much time for games because I've been redoing the laundry room. See previous comment about asbestos or lack thereof, no asbestos. But I couldn't resist getting Metroid Prime Remastered, which Nintendo surprise dropped a couple weeks ago. I love Metroid Prime back in the day, and so the opportunity to play it again. I hate playing into all the nostalgia bait that comes out these days, but at the same time, like I did really like that game. So
I'm a sucker for
I'm
all that
indulging
nostalgia
myself.
shit, that bait. So
yeah, I'm playing it for the first time.
yeah.
Oh, are you?
Mm-hmm. It's great.
I haven't played it. Would you recommend it? I'm guessing it's great. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I like. It's hard to see through the nostalgia. It's definitely aged in some ways. Like it feels, it it lacks certain like slightly more modern sensibilities and how it approaches things. And like it can kind of get you that Metroidvania stuck sometimes, where you're like, where do I go with this new upgrade to actually progress and like unlock more areas? So it's not quite as well designed as some of like the later Metroidvanias that have come out since then. But the like kind of adventure first person, especially with the updated graphics, the first person kind of exploration is very immersive, and the ability to play it on my Switch in bed is a pretty big plus for me too.
Do you leave your helmet visible and the UI like full? Because
Can you turn it off?
Yeah, you can. You can make it so there's nothing on the screen.
Oh no, I leave it on. I find I always loved like the mist effects and the fact that you can see Samus's eyes reflected when like a bright light shines. Like I always thought that was super cool.
You still see that even if you turn off the UI.
Oh, do you? Okay.
It feels a bit like first person games feel really claustrophobic to me in general. Like I don't really like first person games at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like it turns me off. Like I wish this was third person. I would love it so much more. I feel claustrophobic. So then even having like also seeing your helmet and like all this on-screen stuff.
Yeah, I could see it kind of boxing you in a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not used to that. But it still is incredible. I prefer Metroid Dread though. I think Metroid Dread is the best Metroid game.
Yeah, Dread was pretty good. It like the ME sections were only okay, but like
people said that, but
takes a lot more.
I like them. Yeah.
Okay. It takes a lot more modern sensibilities to the Metroidvania formula, which I liked.
I downloaded the Dread demo because I don't own the game, just to remember what it felt like. And the controls on that game, the movement is so good. Like maybe one of the best like feeling platformers I've ever played.
And then, the last thing I've been doing is okay. One other video game thing, Anders. I don't know if I told you, but I finally played Dome Keeper.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did.
And
yeah, it's great. I played this game on like newgrounds.com like 20 years ago called Motherload, I think it was, where you like mine down and your goal was to like just get as deep as possible and you upgrade your drill and stuff. And it like this is basically Motherload but with like a tower defense game at the same time. And I thought it's really slick. It's how you unlock all the different upgrades over the course of it, and kind of they combo to create this like build for you is very satisfying and fun.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there were more upgrades so it had a bit more of a roguelike feel. Like after I played a few times, you start seeing the same ones over and over and over, and you're like, okay, well,
You do
I
unlock.
obviously take.
You do
Yeah,
unlock
you do
some.
unlock a few more, but like
Yeah.
not quite as much as like something like Slay the Spire, where it like really changes run to run.
Right.
Uh,
To
but
me,
yeah, I've been enjoying it.
it stays interesting with like, oh, let's try the bigger map size now. Now let's try longer. It not often does that appeal to me, but I was like, oh, let's try the harder modes, and I beat the hardest mode. So
Oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't gotten that far yet.
it's not the game's not that hard though. That's maybe it's a little too
Yeah,
easy.
it's not too bad.
Yeah, but I'm glad you tried it. How many hours did you play? Just like a couple.
I don't know how many I have. Like maybe like 5 or 6.
Oh, so you're getting into it.
Yeah. I've got 5 hours played. I just checked.
It's just a nice, cozy game for me. I like it. Anyway,
And then the last thing I've been into lately is I've been playing a lot of 40K. I joined this campaign being run by the Goonhammer website. It's a Warhammer 40K website, and they have this tool called Administratum, which helps you like track campaigns and stuff. And so using this tool they've built, it's like a website that lets you more easily track all your games. And when you're playing Crusade, they're running a massive Crusade campaign with like hundreds of people in it. Like there's just so many people participating, and they post weekly updates, and you can like talk with your faction, and there's like narrative events you can trigger, and they have game masters that you contact and will like tell you how these different narrative events go. uh and you just do it by playing normal games against people in your area, or like you can get on tabletop simulator and play against other people. But it's been kind of interesting to see this like giant hundreds of people campaign event playing out virtually.
Yeah,
Has been kind of an interesting
awesome.
organized play experience. So it's been kind of fun.
sweet.
That reminds me of what really drew me into D&D 3.5, which was already old by the time I started playing it, was the Living Greyhawk setting where you are playing
Oh,
in
yeah.
regions like in Minnesota and the surrounding areas. That area you are playing in the fantasy world is the Shieldlands. But if you were to take your character and go to like Louisiana, you'd be in a different world or a different region.
Part of the setting. Yeah.
And I just thought that was so cool. Oh, man, it's awesome.
So yeah,
Sweet.
that's everything I've been into lately. How about you, Evan?
Not a whole lot. I mean, I guess the game I've been playing is in the mornings trying to get my daughter to crawl. Because I'm at this weird point where I'm like, we hear like milestones, like, oh, at a certain age they start doing these things, and that doesn't mean that at exactly a certain set amount of time they start doing it. But I just start getting anxious, like, okay, she's supposed to start crawling soon.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Never too early to pressure your child, Evan.
Yeah, so like I don't know if I'm being like weird and like overbearing or something, but I'll have this like in the morning. I get up with her about 5 a.m. or 5:30 sometimes, although she's been sleeping pretty good the last few days. But when she's up early, I'll take her in the downstairs and just hang out with her and stuff. And I've been using this cat toy, which is like a fuzzy little pink creature on the end of a string, and I'm just like pulling it in front of her, and she'll go after
Like
it.
a
She'll be crawling at it, and it's so cool. But I also I feel bad, like I feel like I'm frustrating her, and I'm gonna like create some sort of like neuroses or something. So I'm trying not to do that anymore. I should just be hands off. Be like, she'll crawl when she's ready.
When she's older, she's like, I have this reoccurring dream where I'm running after this pink creature, and I just can't figure out why.
Yeah. So I've been just obviously very involved with my daughter, and just it's pretty incredible watching her develop, and it's cool like seeing her interact with kids at daycare now. She's not just like in her own world, like sitting in a bouncy chair. So that's pretty much what I've been up to. I'm totally spacing out.
You said you're playing Mario Kart.
Oh yeah, that's right. I hung out with a friend recently who I usually just play games with. And realized that he had like these new Mario Kart tracks. So I ended up my Nintendo subscription had expired a while ago, and I had to get back into it in order to acquire those tracks. So
Hmm.
I've been playing Mario Kart on the Switch, and there's like 20 new tracks or something.
Yeah,
Oh,
are they
dang.
are they good? I've wanted to dip into them.
So yeah, they're all drawn from the various predecessors or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And the ones I like the least, I think, are from the 3DS. They're all like real locations like Paris and stuff, and they just seem boring.
Oh
I
yeah.
like the things with like heavy Mario elements, like
Hmm.
toadstools and things. So
Yeah.
I favor those ones
Oh yeah, for
rather
sure.
than like. Although the ones that are in real world settings are neat because the tracks will change as you each lap you do. Like a new
Hmm.
one gate will close off and a new one will open, and it kind of creates a new
Oh, interesting.
dynamic, which is fun.
I
So I've
always
been doing that, but
I always love those ones. Or the ones where it's
yeah,
just like a one large map rather than
yeah.
doing
So
laps.
there's no repetition.
I believe one's called
I
Big Blue or something.
I used to be so into Mario Kart, but like I have trouble motivating myself when I don't have opponents. Like
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
if I'm like going to be playing with my friends uh like on a regular basis, I'll like go home and play a bunch to like practice and be
yeah.
better so that when I play against my friends I'm better.
Hmm.
But like if it's just me playing Mario Kart, I struggle to get up like the motivation to push myself without like knowing that I'm going to play against other
I
people, you
get
know?
it. Yeah, I mean, Megan and I will play it together, but at the same time, she'll only want to play like 50cc, and I'm like 150. It's got to be 150 or whatever.
Yeah,
But
I think Mario
still,
Kart's
it's a lot of fun.
it's a great one player game. I enjoy playing it one player, and I think it's just so beautiful. I think it's the best looking Switch game.
It is
Yeah, I think
gorgeous,
so.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it runs like really well.
It's so
yeah.
good. It's so good looking.
Considering how crappy the Switch hardware is, that
I
game
know.
performs pretty well.
I mean, the first party Nintendo games are that way.
Yeah.
Odyssey
Yeah, they're good at
is
what they do.
beautiful. Okay, guys,
So
I think I'm pooped out. Is there
yeah,
Is
we're
there something
done.
else you want? Jedi Survivor to come out? That's cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. I want. Yes, yes. A game that was supposed to come out this month has been delayed, and I'm sad about it. So
Yeah, the last one was really cool.
yeah, yeah, it was. Really looking forward to it.
Nice, nice. And you have your PS5 now.
Yep.
Cool. All right, guys, it was fun talking to you.
Yeah.
And everybody, look for the next Playcasts on YouTube. We're going to be playing through day one. We're going to be getting into it. It was a good time. You're going to enjoy it, I know. The game is now printing. Go to earthbornegames.com to sign up to hear about when it releases if you haven't already done that, which I'm sure you have. And follow us on all the stuff. And thanks for listening. We love you. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
See you.